welcome. This is the Ultimate Marketing Podcast with myself, Vish. We've got Dee and Sarah. I'm going to show you how you grow and scale your business online in this very short and concise marketing podcast for you all. So welcome, ladies. How are you? I'm surrounded by ladies today.
You're very lucky.
Yes, I know.
You said it's short and concise. I mean, that's definitely a misrepresentation of us, isn't it?
Well, I was referring to your height, so good save there, isn't it? Straight in episode 1.
I was like, already, that's a marketing principle gone wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, it's really nice that you've segued into that, because we are actually here to talk about our first topic, which is marketing principles.
It is.
It is marketing principles.
It is.
It's like sub kind of agreement there from both of you guys. So like,
what do we mean by marketing principles? That's because I reckon anyone who's listening to our podcast here, is going to be going, okay, so that's like a really big concept, and not many people actually talk about marketing principles, do they?
No.
It's
a pretty big, fairly big global concept, isn't it? Like, where do you start? Where do you stop? And I suppose, but the best question is, like, let's just tuck the hat in the ring and go, what does it mean to you guys? Like, what's your interpretation of marketing principles?
I definitely want to hear Sarah's answer on this, because she's like,
just pass that back along.
Like the automation guru here.
Yes.
Right. So I think let's hear it from her, because to be fair, like any business needs to start with some of the expertise that Sarah has.
Yeah.
Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Dee. Well, to me, it's the fundamentals of marketing.
Yeah.
And what are those fundamentals of marketing? First of all, it is who you serve.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really clear on who your target market is, because you don't want to go after everybody, because by going after everybody, you're going after nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you have to get super clear on, is who you actually want to work with. And then for me, the second one is your marketing message. So how do you communicate what it is that you do and how you help people?
In the right way.
In the right way, yes.
To your very defined, specific audience.
In a short and concise way, like Vish said.
Yeah,
yes.
but I'm probably going to end up jumping in at every point as well, right? But like, who you want to work with, like the first step, right? I'm so surprised how many people don't do, like, they don't scope that out.
Well, they're confused about it.
Right.
They're really not clear. I speak to a lot of people who really haven't got that nailed.
Yeah. And like, what you said, like you can't go after everybody, because you'll end up having nobody. That's something that's lost. And I think with the whole transmogrification of like normal traditional marketing now into digital marketing, which is what we all kind of specialize in our own respective fields, like that message is lost with people. Like, people are like, well, I'm online, so technically I could go after everyone, right?
I think on top of that, I think what's happened is it's become it's almost become, as a topic, a saturated topic.
Yeah.
So everybody talks about avatar and talks about, your ideal client or your ideal target market. So there's constant talk about it. And so what I think people have become blindsided to it now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit like, your immune system no longer working against any type of antibiotic. That's what's ultimately happened.
Yeah. People go, oh no, not again.
Not again. Or they just feel like they've got it because they've heard it so many times.
Yeah. But
actually what they've heard and what they've gone ahead and done are two very different things. And so it's really about, like you said, it's I think there's two elements to there, isn't it? There's, and I teach this all the time, where there's the demographics, which is what everybody tends to know a fair bit about, even if they sometimes don't know it well enough.
Yeah.
But then there's the psychographics around that as well. And I think those two elements together to really understand and know your avatar.
Open up psychographics. Like what's, because psychographics is like another, like it's a whole can of worms, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a word that's come out and everybody goes, oh my God, it's like this new concept. But ultimately, if you think about anything that anybody has ever done, even like in the olden days, in traditional marketing, you still needed to know who your client market was or your target market was, including, if you were the Yorkie chocolate bar going after the truck driver, the rigid man who's like, got a six pack, maybe not, but that sort of thing. So it was always
it's there somewhere. Sorry,
it's hiding.
It's hiding. So it was always something that was important. So
Yeah.
the psychographics is, in my opinion, when I talk about people with the LinkedIn marketing side of things, I go, you've got to know your psychographics because you've got to understand the language that they are speaking.
Exactly.
Even if you are somebody who maybe was once there and overcame that challenge, and now you're helping other people overcome the same challenge, what a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, marketers tend to do is they tend to speak from the place they're at now, rather than going back and going, actually, what was the language? What kind of things that I was saying when I was in pain or when I was looking for my desired outcome? What were the actual words that I was using?
Yeah.
So what could my audience be using? And when you understand the language around it, you then start to be able to get your marketing message speaking that same language, right, Sarah?
Spot on.
So that people go, oh my gosh, this person sounds like me, or this person understands me. And I think people forget about the psychographics from a language point of view. That's one of the areas.
I agree. I always ask my clients, like, what words do your people use when they talk to you? And what words do you use to talk to them? Because you want to make sure that when we're doing your marketing message, we're talking in your potential client's language, so they're going to resonate with it.
Yeah.
There's no point in talking jargon in like your own language because they won't know what you're talking about. It has to be really, really clear.
Even from a search perspective, right? Yeah. So imagine that you are, like, let's say you're doing some outreach on LinkedIn and you put in, in the search, like people go, oh, I want to be like their headline, for example. People go, I was known, my personal brand grew, especially during the pandemic, as the LinkedIn Queen. Now, I could have put my title on my headline as the LinkedIn Queen, but that would not make my profile searchable because none of my audience are putting LinkedIn Queen in a search box. Yeah. They're putting a LinkedIn trainer or LinkedIn coach. But I hear so many experts go, oh, I don't want to be known as a coach, or I don't want to be known as the trainer because it's just such a generic word.
Yeah.
But I have to think how my customers are thinking.
100%.
Exactly.
It's like you said, SEO, right? So you're almost reverse engineering what your message is, so that when people search for it, when the 3% of people search for it, Chet Holmes, Ultimate Sales Machine, that's where the reference is from. We can link that out as well. But when your 3% are searching for it, they are actually searching for those terms, right? You're not going to go and say, well, can I search for the LinkedIn Queen? I know that is like, we're going to like, so it makes perfect sense. And that's what you said. Your second point was marketing message, like how you communicate what you do to the people you do it for.
I know. And so many people are not concise about that. So if you ask people who they work with, you get a very, very, or what they do even, you get a very, very long answer.
Well, we had this conversation in the car up there, didn't we? We were talking about a person who provides a service to, coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, is this person do A and B? We won't go into it because I think it would give the game away a little bit, but does this person do A and B? And D was like, yeah, kind of does that, but this. And then you, Sarah, like, I'm not quite sure what she does. Oh shit.
Fluff,
because it's quite fluffy. That was a fluff. I do that quite often. But yeah, we're not quite sure what she does. It is a female person. It's quite fluffy, but the result that person delivers, right?
Yes.
And that's okay because you know of this person within the circle. But can you imagine the people that don't know of this person? Like how they find out, how they understand what this person does for them. Like she could be missing out on so many people right now.
True.
Right? Just by her marketing message not being that concise and short.
Yeah. I think it is just how you communicate it, isn't it? It's just
Really
like
is.
how you communicate it in person.
Yeah.
And that, that goes back to like, A, understanding your message, understanding your audience, so that how you are how you are on stage versus how you are online versus how you are in person, that it is really clear what you do and who you do it for.
Yeah. I always say there's 4 things to be able to answer, like who it is you work with. So is it like coaches, consultants, service providers? What pains and problems do they have? What results are they looking for?
Yeah.
And then what's your solution to those problems that gives them that result?
Yeah.
And you have to be able to articulate that really easily and clearly. Once you've got that clear, then people do understand what you do. But if you haven't got all of those 4 elements in your answer, I think it can be quite vague.
Yeah.
And people are left like, well, I don't really know what that person does.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake then? But let's go back to the avatar element. What's the biggest mistake that people make today when it comes to their avatar?
They just can't articulate who that person is. They haven't nailed it. So that they're still very much thinking, well, I can kind of help everybody. And it's like, well, you can help everyone, but I always say, like, who do you want to work with? Who would be your ideal person to work with? Or like, who are you? Like, think about yourself and how you got to where you are. So how would you describe yourself as you used to be? Because your ideal client is usually you before you overcame the challenges. And then you want to attract people who have those same problems that you used to have.
Yeah.
So I think I was speaking to a client recently, actually, and he's had a business for a while. But when I asked him, who do you work with? He said that I've really struggled with this for such a long time.
Yeah.
And he said, I just haven't got clear on it at all.
I suppose it's a bigger challenge for people like us who are more service-led in that, we're delivering a service to entrepreneurs, and it's not a physical product that we're selling. Because physical products are physical products, right? An iPhone's an iPhone. You go to an iPhone, you don't really need to see who your target market are, but their advertising and their marketing is quite, succinct, I think, when it comes down to it, because they give you real world things, 20,000 songs in your pocket, whatever it is, But with us as service-led businesses, I think it's very, very different. We have to be very precise with that. And I think product-based businesses can get away with it. Like a chiropractor is somebody who experiences pain. There are like a global level of agreement. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's not, we don't have to go down to a demographic of, and I suppose they do, because it helps them get the right customers through the door, but they can just go anybody who experiences back pain, and then they can niche it down further from there, right?
And they can also make it more localized or geographical, right? Because that's what a lot of those type of like chiropractors and dentists and people like that will tend to look at. I mean, they might go for a particular style of customer, i.e. high net worth individuals or whatever it might be. But you're right in terms of, but even then, what's interesting is they're still, if they get it right, they then still attract the right kind of customer. I'm sure, and this is no reflection because I'm an NHS dentist patient.
Yeah.
But there'll be some dentists whose ideal audience will be private clients because that's where they want to go, or that's how they want to be positioned as.
Yeah. It makes that does, because a friend of mine just opened up her own clinic on Harley Street after like 20 years of being a dentist and working with, I think it's called aesthetic dentistry, where they like do all the make your teeth look nice stuff, basically. And now I'm conscious I'm not going to open my teeth in front of you guys. I'm going to open my mouth, but you can't see my teeth. But
I hope my dentist isn't listening to this podcast.
But she is very precise. Like, I only want to work with people who are above a certain level. But then I think by virtue of her location, she disqualifies people out of the equation because she's based on Harley Street.
Harley Street, and that's the other thing, isn't it? So I guess so many things to take into account, and I think, and that's where the demographic side of things come in, don't they, with the avatar, because it's like people don't realize. So they'll go, "Oh yeah, I'll be UK wide, or I'll be," but actually, if you really understand your ideal client's family lifestyle, their hobbies, that's why where the salaries and all that kind of stuff takes place. Or makes a difference, is because you then go, right, I know exactly who I'm going after, the kind of, area they're in, for example, I worked with a client who was working with social workers. And so therefore the social work industry were within a particular area because they were helping underprivileged kids, get out of, get away from any kind of knife or gang culture, and then be able to actually, take them away from that and put them into, youth clubs and things like that. So it's all of that kind of stuff. So location, even the demographics has so much importance to it that not enough of us would actually realize how important it is. And I think that's where a lot of our clients fall down, don't they? A lot of our prospects fall down who haven't worked with us yet, because they don't think. I remember, again, a client of mine, she was just like, I don't want to do anything more on Avatar. I'm tired of hearing about Avatar. Yeah. But actually, I think it's something you have to work on every 6 months.
I think you really have to review it on a regular basis, because as you evolve, your business evolves, and therefore who you work with changes. So I agree with you. You do need to continuously look at it to say, does this still fit?
Mm.
And I think the more people you work with, the clearer it becomes.
Yeah.
Because you then go, well, I had an amazing experience with that client. I had a not so good experience with that client. What made that one amazing? What made that one not so good? And how do I get more of those amazing ones? What was it that made that one amazing? What was the characteristics and values of that person versus the other one? And I think that's really important as well, because we tend to want to work with people who are like us or aligned to our values. And if they haven't got the same values, there tends to be a little bit of a rub, I think. So I do think, as you say, like the more people you've worked with, the easier it becomes to articulate it. But you've got to start somewhere. So I always say to people, let's start somewhere. Like, let's start with where you're at now and just be conscious that you do need to evolve it.
Yeah. And
I was just going to say, that's a really good point, isn't it? Like when you do have a client that you absolutely love, like almost definitely 100% redo your avatar at that point.
Yeah.
Because there will be so many things that you learn from that one client that you go, oh my God, if I had another 20 like this, my business would basically be booming.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And, that's something I had to contend with early. Like, when you're first in startup mode and you're scrappy and you're literally talking to everybody you can, like who will entertain having a phone call or an email from you and want to take that conversation further. Like I have taken on customers where I look back on it now, like, God, like I was a breadhead. I literally did it for the bread. I did it for the money.
I think you would have had to do that at a certain level. And I think that's probably one of the things. And I'd love your take on both of your takes on this is to go, if somebody is starting out and maybe they're not even their own client because they've not experienced the same challenges or overcome that challenge, but they've just found a gap in the market. Because I think people listening to this, there'll be quite a few people in that category where they've opened up a business or they've started a business because they found a gap in the market, not because they've had the same experience. So what would they do to like really hone in on that avatar?
Have more conversations, man. Have more conversations with people. That's the only way you're going to figure out what you actually consider is good to work with and what you think is shit to work with.
But it is market research, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You've got to research your market. If you're just starting out, you've got to do a bit of research. You might look at like what other people do. You might look at like people who are way further ahead than you, and you may look at people who are just a little bit further ahead than you, but you kind of look at what they do and you use that as a bit of a frame to start with.
Yeah.
I think. And then you've got to start working with some people, haven't you?
Yeah.
In order to disqualify as well, don't you? Eventually.
Yeah. Well, it's like going out and like meeting new people and you're trying to, you want to find that like all the examples I use are relationship based. I just realize that, right? So like, it's relationship, right? You want to get into the right relationship, but you have to figure out, you've got to be
like, Mrs. Vish Baba, are you listening to this?
Yeah. Right. You got to go through those motions, right? To figure out what works and what doesn't work. So like it's the same. Like I look back on it now and like, I shouldn't have done that. But then I think also it was necessary for me to do that, to now be in the position to go, actually, I realized what I did there. I wouldn't do that again. But then my advice to somebody who's kind of starting out, like I said, is have more conversations and learn to disqualify quicker. It's not about it. And I know sometimes it can be hard. Look, guys, we've been at varying degrees of like success in all our businesses, right? And we've had to start from somewhere. So we understand the pressures that come with starting up a business new, having bills and responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. But, don't be afraid to disqualify, because every time one door closes, another 10 of the right doors will open. Because if you're opening up the wrong door, you'll never see the right door.
I think something that you've made a point there, which is really key. And this is again, like, for people who are listening, who are starting out a business and not really are really unsure of their avatar, is disqualify quicker. Yeah. Because I think you're right. In the beginning, there may be that, you've got this ideal client in your mind, your avatar, you believe that they're the right type of person. But this is where understanding your client and really then reviewing that document, right, Sarah, it comes into hand, because you go, right, I've had this client and they've been really good. What did I like about them? What and then basing your avatar on that. But equally, because when you're starting out, you will also potentially get the clients that you wish you'd never taken on.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to then go, right, okay, I need to now see what was it about this client that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And make sure that my new revised document of my ideal client has those elements in there now. So I now know what not to go for.
Yeah.
And I can review that and revise it. And I think in the beginning, maybe just revising that document every time you get a new client, because then that'll help you then to hone in.
Yeah.
But I think also at the early stages, people will take on any client.
Oh, yeah.
Because they need the money.
Yeah.
So particularly in the early stages of your business, you'll just go, well, I just need to bring some cash in. So I'll just work with anyone who comes my way.
Been there, done that.
I think we all have. Haven't we?
Of course.
We all have.
But it's a trial by fire. You got to go through it, man.
You still need to start somewhere, don't you?
Yeah.
But it's through that you learn what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
And as your business grows, you can become more selective about who you work with. You can rule people in and out. And I do think that not enough of us qualify. So, and I've done it myself. Like I have spoken to people who I haven't checked that they're the right person for my business before I've spent like an hour on the phone with them. And so we as entrepreneurs can waste a heck of a lot of time speaking to people who aren't the right fit and helping people who aren't the right fit.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do that qualification piece up first, you're making sure that when you are speaking to people, your time is getting precious. So you're spending that time with the right potential people. They may or may not work with you, but at least you've spoken to the right people and not the wrong people.
Yeah. I have a questionnaire that, anytime anyone's booked a call.
Yep. Just going to say that.
Yeah. I have a questionnaire that goes out. I mean, again, like, let's face it, people lie.
Yeah.
Right. There have been times where, one of the questions in my questionnaire is, what's your budget?
Yeah.
And they'll, most of the time will give a lower budget than they've actually got.
God.
Yes.
But so I won't always not do a call. But you're right. There'll be certain things where you go, like they might tell me what they do, or or even like depending on what location they're in, what country they're in, all of these things in my head then go, actually, I know that although I could help them at some point, I am not the right person for them right now. And I think that's a really good point, isn't it? Like for even us as entrepreneurs, there are entrepreneurs out there. You've got to be brave enough to say no to a client, to a potential client that doesn't fit your avatar.
That can be hard, especially when you're thinking, I need to bring some money into my business.
Yeah.
It can be
hit
hard
target
to
this
say no.
month.
Yeah.
Got to make sure they get hit bank this month. Got the mortgage going out, got bills going out, got staff costs going out, like whatever.
So what do you do?
What do you do?
Do you do the thing that you just said? Close the door because 10 potential doors could open up.
I think that's a whole content for another whole
Another
episode.
Yeah.
About faith, right? Like just having
Belief.
Faith, belief, whatever you want to call it, whether it's in a higher power or just the fact that you've put stuff out into the universe. I don't know. That's a whole different episode. Mindset of being an entrepreneur working within a marketing-led business. I think that's
We'll be coming back to you with that episode.
Yeah, it's either. I mean, it's
subscribe
either
now.
Yeah, it's either. I mean, different people call it different things. I call it belief or faith. Other people in my life call it stupidity. Like, are you that stupid? But I don't know. Like, it's going to work out. Like, I will figure it out. Like, it will work out. But that is the wrong person. In fact, a person we have to get onto the podcast, I think would be great, is having Matt here because obviously we all know him, we all love him, and he said on one of his trainings that I was overlooking and just like going through the stuff that was in there content wise. Interestingly enough, about customers, he said, as soon as I get an inkling that I don't like this person because of their attitude and the way they'll be towards me or my staff, I reject the client because the last thing I want is somebody talking to me like they own me. Right. And from that, and I've seen him do that. And I respect that.
Yes, that is good.
I'm like, irrespective of the fact that he needs the money or doesn't need the money, he'll be like, no, I can't get on with this person. I cannot help them. Like, no matter what. And you don't have to go to the pub every Friday with these guys and have a large one every weekend. But just the ability to actually work with somebody, have a good working relationship, I think is really important as well, right?
That comes with confidence as well and certainty in yourself, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
And knowing, again, your own people and who you want to work with and who you don't.
Yeah. And like, just going back, just to jump back a couple of points onto what Dee said a little, like not even that long ago, a couple of minutes ago, about cost, the cost of services as you're pitching to a client. Like I had a conversation with a client the other day, and I go, this is based on what you've said to me, based on what your objectives are. This is what you need to do to get there. Do you agree? Yes. Do you see how it works? Yes. Okay. This is how much the investment you need to make is going to cost you. And her immediate reaction was, oh my gosh. And then her next question was, well, how do we proceed? And that was like, fine, that's it. Like, cool, let's go. But she did say, oh my gosh, but she saw the value in what we were doing because I got the avatar right.
So that's the important bit, the value, isn't it, of what we do?
Yeah, and I qualified her. She was like, yeah, I see this is exactly what I need. So yeah, absolutely.
Now that we've got now that we
I was just thinking, would I go out on the Lash River on a Friday night? Probably not. Probably not. She probably wouldn't appreciate the type of music I like, but still, she's a lovely person, very easy to get on with.
I think it goes back to also what Sarah was saying about having the certainty and confidence to be able to do that. And I think depending on where you are in your business, that might be at a different level.
Yeah.
So obviously, someone like Matt has the ability to do that because of where he is and where he's got to. So and then it's harder for somebody at the starting stages to do that and we've been there, haven't we? Where
we've all done that.
Yeah.
But he even said in the starting, like in the early days of his agency, like he said, I did the same thing. Like I would not do it because I got bitten early on. Like he got absolutely burnt early on. He's like, we just wouldn't do it.
But then he's experienced it.
Yeah.
So he still had that experience, and then he's learned from that experience, and then said, right, now I'm going to rule these ones in and these ones out. You've still got to go through that process, haven't you, of working out who it is you want to work with. I think you always start with an idea of who you want to work with, and then it gets refined over time.
Yeah. And I think look, I think to be really, really direct and honest is that when you are starting out your business, you will undeniably make these mistakes that we're even telling you not to do.
Yeah.
But you will undeniably do them because you know that you've got to get some kind of, you were saying earlier, Vish, about you've got to get something rolling in. Like I remember when I first went into business, because I had, and it's a lot to do with our skill set, right? So, I had the public speaking experience. I've been a public speaking coach for X amount of years.
You still have that experience?
I have yes, I do. I have the journalism experience from my day. So I knew that I did a lot of writing. And I remember I was writing website copy for people whilst I was trying to find clients in LinkedIn. Yeah.
I didn't know that about you, man.
Yeah. And I was just like...
You're doing everything scrappy.
I was doing like scrappy things.
Yeah.
Because it was like the extra 200 quid here or the extra 500 quid here. And then recently, I remember my brother called me up and he was like, so I've got a potential client for you. And he goes, they've asked me to do their website, which I can't do, but they want a copywriter. They've asked me for a copywriter. And I just went, no. Because it's a distraction where I am in the business right now. The business is, this is what I do. I can't be doing those things, even though I could probably now, with my experience in business, charge X amount more than that. I could probably even outsource it. But my initial thought process was, I don't want to be known for writing copy for websites, even if I wasn't going to do it myself. Because my niche is LinkedIn marketing, and visibility, helping people build a personal brand. That's my niche. And I think that's the other thing, isn't it, guys, where when you start out, don't try and be all things to all men.
Yeah.
Like you need to establish that niche. The more niche you are, actually, the better it is.
Yeah, man.
Either in terms of your niche ideal client. So really good example of that was somebody like Ben Kane, who some of us know. He specifically niches for accountants and bookkeepers.
Yes.
That's his audience. What he does for them is something that a lot of marketeers do, but he has niched down into that particular sector. Or you're someone like me where you go, this is all I do, like LinkedIn. Something like Sarah, it's about the automation and the lead magnets. And that's what, you got funnels with you. So we niche in our expertise so that people know what to come to us for rather than be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
Dee and I, we were at a conference the last couple of days, and one of the speakers was saying, if you say, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this, the brain gets confused and lost.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, I'm this, people will remember that. So if you say, I'm a speaker, and I'm a trainer and I'm an author, and I'm a mum, I'm on a podcast, and I sometimes do radio, then people get confused. They don't remember it all. Whereas if you just say, I am a speaker and I speak at events on X subjects, then people will remember that.
Do you know what? And Dee knows this side of me as well, because I was like that. I'd like, shiny object syndrome. Like I'd see a shiny object and run after it. See the shiny object. I wanted to master that skill. And I was doing, at one point I was doing radio. So I was broadcasting. I was DJing. I was running a business. I was working, at that time, not running a business, and also doing all this public speaking and learning. This is before I jumped out of the corporate world. Yeah. And it was just so confusing. Like I was like, oh my God.
Confusing for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, absolutely. I was like, who the hell am I? Yeah. Like, what am I doing?
What do I do?
I had to strip everything away from that part of life and go, right, concentrate on what you are and concentrate on what you want to do. Then I exited corporate and I started up my own business. And, my first business wasn't even a marketing agency. My first business was a therapy business, right? And the therapy was absolutely fantastic, but the marketing didn't work as prescribed on the business in a box thing, right? And they were like, no, just put more money into it, you'll be fine. Put more money into it. I was like, no, it's not making any money. I'm losing it. Like I won't be able to break even if I put any more money into it. And then I went away and learned marketing, came back, started doing that for other people, helped make a shit ton of money. Learned that I should have negotiated a kickback on the contract. And that's how I got into marketing. And I was like, now I'm just going to concentrate on this.
Yeah.
Because I like it, enjoy it, concentrate on it. But then you have the startup issues, right? So yeah, it gets confusing. And then it's the same thing for other business owners as well. Like you got to just niche it down, man. Niche it down. I think that's the principle of marketing as well, right? Niching.
That is a key principle, right? To niche. Well, it links to the ideal client, doesn't it? It's like who are you going to work with? Yeah. What are you going to help them with?
Yeah. The 4 things that you said. That's absolutely part of like super niching it down, being like sniper targeted on what you're gonna do, who you're gonna do it for, and how you're gonna help them achieve that.
And ultimately, what happens, isn't it, is that people get scared of niching because they think they're gonna miss out or they're not gonna get enough.
Yeah.
I remember there was another individual who initially started his marketing agency for everyone, and then he niched down to, if I'm right, hair clinics.
Oh, wow.
Specific hair. And it was something to do, it was something to do with like, when you lose your hair, like that type of a hair clinic.
Oh, wow.
That was really specific.
Really specific, yeah.
Like skin micropigmentation
That's
extension.
exactly what it was.
Yeah, wasn't it?
That's exactly what it was.
Wow.
And he's become known for that now. And he's got so much business.
Yeah, his revenue went from something like 5K a month to something like 25K a month. That was the last time. Wow. I think I spoke to him 2 years ago. So I don't even know what his revenue must be now.
That's freaking nuts,
but it was specifically that type of clinic. Yeah.
There you go, right? And like, obviously, we know loads of other people in the market, like Gary Dass.
Yeah.
He specifically does it for financial advisors.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I'm like, wow. And like, do you want to talk
Love a bit of Gary Dass.
Yeah, I love Gary Dass, right? Would you like to do something with that? He's like, no, I just want to work with
mortgage companies.
This is it. I don't want IFAs. I don't want any of that other stuff. I literally want people who do mortgages because that's the way my model works.
Yeah.
And he's got business coming through.
I'm speaking at his event,
Are you?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh, I had to throw that in there, didn't you? It's June 2023. Actually, just in case. Yeah, when you're listening back to this historically, because this is going to be evergreen, it's the podcast has been putting out into the ether of the internet.
It is.
This is June 2023. So don't be expecting her to be at the same event in 2024. She's going to be on bigger and better things by then, right? She's going to be on the stage with, I don't know, Gary V by that time. Gary D goes to Gary V.
To Gary V.
Right? That's the best way to do it, right? Is to change the letters in the alphabet. All right. Awesome. But yeah, marketing principles. I mean, that's
It's interesting, isn't it? We spent a lot of time just talking about that one thing, like the ideal client and the niching.
Yeah,
that is like just one principle, but it's such an important one.
Yeah. But I think that's that's a powerful element of this podcast, isn't it? This is what we're here to do, is to bring our audience, our listeners, and our viewers. This is what we're here to bring them, is like more understanding of some of these principles and more.
Look.
And why it's important. And I think people need to understand why it's important.
Because I think, like you said, we've in fact, all 3 of us picked up on that, didn't we? That we've had so many clients go, oh God, like, do we have to talk about this now?
Yeah.
And I get so many people coming up to me going, oh my God, I can't remember the last time I worked on this. Yeah. And when they do work on it, they just have these like moments.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're going to be working on when we do our retreat, right?
Absolutely.
So-
Who do we want to be there? Like, what's our
Yeah.
ideal
Yeah.
client for that?
Yeah.
It's
But
not
also
everybody.
getting our clients to literally work on that, even though they feel that they've got it
Yeah.
bang on. It is important to cover that marketing principle at the retreat so that, the people who are, I'm excited about the retreat.
Yeah,
I'm excited
I
about
can't
the
wait for that.
Yeah.
I'm
I think-
excited
I
about my
don't
spa treatments, to be honest with you. Getting
I'm
away.
just wondering, I've been to a lot of business retreats.
Yeah.
But, obviously the idea that we've come up with of it being only a marketing led retreat.
Yes.
Like you come to us with your business now,
Yeah.
and we are just going to help you get beep done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beep.
Implement your marketing.
Get shit done, man. Say it. Own
Get
it.
shit done.
Own it, D. This is podcast world. You're allowed to have a little
Can
bit
you
of
have can you have a few non-beep moments?
Yeah, of course you can.
Interesting.
If the next time you beep, I'll give you an applause as well. Look. There. It's there. I've got it on cue. Got it on cue. But look, and look, going to podcast and structure, etc. Look, we started off. The aim is to talk about marketing principles, but it's an organic conversation.
Yeah.
It's not scripted in that way. So it's good that we're able to talk about this. This is
But look, if you're listening, and you've got any questions about your avatar,
reach out. There are contact details. You can search for our names and it will bring up our profiles and just
subscribe
Subscribe.
to our podcast.
Yeah. It's not like subliminal messaging.
Subscribe.
I just record that and we'll have that on the underlayer. So it's like subliminal messaging.
Shall we do that whole thing where every episode we have to try and get a word in? Like subscribe.
Oh my God. We used to when I was corporate, we used to have like buzzword bingo, and we'd go into meetings. This is like bad. If any of my ex-managers are listening to this, it probably explains a lot to what we would do in meetings. So like we'd go into meetings and we'd each be given like a word. Like the topic would be like vegetables, and you'd have like a vegetable or a fruit. So you'd have to use the word in some feedback you'd give to your direct line manager.
I reckon we should do something like that, and then see if out of our listeners, if they get the word. And put them into
what it is.
hat, and then we can, and they can get like maybe a half an hour session with us, or
a little prize
15-minute session, little prize draw.
Interesting.
Yeah, so every episode we'll be coming to you with a particular marketing led word, and if you guess which word is a subscribe word, obviously this episode doesn't count because we've given you the word.
Yeah. I mean, I could subscribe to that pattern of thought.
Yeah. And the thing is, the only way to get into the prize draw is if you subscribe to this podcast.
Oh,
well done, D. Shameless plug.
She gets the round of applause. Maybe I get picked up, but it is what it is. But yeah, let's flesh that one out. That's a good. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So as we're coming to the end of this episode, let's definitely put that one out there. So look, obviously share this podcast. Let us know what have been the highlights.
Yeah.
I think we should end it with what's the one piece of advice that all of us would give, one key piece of advice on ideal client that maybe people don't know about that we should give.
Yeah.
That we want to give you as we end this episode.
Yeah.
Starting with Sarah.
Why are you throwing your own questions? She's looking at me, she's going, starting with Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, you get first.
Sarah is like her and marketing principles to me.
Yeah.
Like I can sit and listen to Sarah all day, right? Because she
Steve.
is just like genius when it comes to these principles.
I would say it's what I said earlier, which is like if you can answer these 4 questions, so take away these 4 questions. Who do I work with? What pains and problems do they have? What results are they looking for? And how do I solve them? Just write those questions down and the answers to those questions, and that will start to inform your marketing message.
Love it.
Interesting. One takeaway from me, marketing principles.
Specifically around Avatar.
Specifically around Avatar is oh my God.
Because we didn't even get to the second version. Now we have to do a second episode.
We're going to do another episode in a minute about the other principles that we haven't even touched on.
That we haven't even exactly, right. So specifically around Avatar, marketing principles is be very specific. Like be very specific. Especially what you said earlier on. Like I wholesomely agree with you on that. Because a lot of the stuff that we talk about is content, right? So be specific who your customer is and how they refer to the challenges that they're experiencing right now. So that when you're putting content out, you're putting it presently tensed for them, so that you're meeting them at their coalface as opposed to where you are, because then that journey, that transmission of like from where they are to where they want to get to is less tricky because they see you as the person that's going to help them do that.
Yeah,
cool.
That's me.
Mine's a little bit double-sided. Of course it is. So I think one's just come out of this conversation, which is why I think these kind of conversations are really important, and why the three of us got together in the first place, didn't we? Is because there's so much knowledge out there, and actually when you put it together, you can actually share golden nuggets with your prospects and clients and your audience. So one part is actually, even if you are starting out and you aren't your ideal client, so you're not really sure, every single time you get a client on board, review your ideal client document so that you can delete, add, and start to refine. And then my second kind of side of that is when you're doing that, make sure you don't forget the psychographics. So add in, what is it that they're saying? What type of things? Like when, the first client that you got, when you did a consultation with them, what kind of questions did they ask? What answers did they give to those questions that you asked? Because whatever language they are using is the stuff that you can put into your marketing message moving forward so that you can attract more and more of the right people.
Absolutely. Some great gems there on today's podcast. I can't even say today because you could be listening to this whenever you're listening to it.
Exactly.
Because it's self-serve. It's available on the interweb at all the usual outlets. But yeah, thank you for joining us on this one. Like we said earlier, like, subscribe, and share. Like subliminally, unsubliminally. There's some Darren Brown stuff going on in this one, I'm telling you. Right?
It's like NLP.
It's like, what's that all about? Like, share, subscribe. Reach out to us online, leave some comments. Share your favorite bit from the from the podcast, and let us know what your thoughts are around any of the questions we've asked today. You have been listening to the Ultimate Marketing Podcast with myself, Vish, Dee, and Sarah, my two lovely ladies who are in the room with me today, about how to grow and scale your business online. And we'll be back with you in the next episode.